Welcome to Tinfoil and Table Flips, a podcast about Guild Wars 2, where we talk about theories and tantalizing topics of the week. Our guests play daily in the Guild Wars 2 Guild at GameBreakerNation.com. Say hello to Robin.
Hi.
Roy.
Hey everybody, how's it going? As I smack my mic.
Aaron.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And I am your host, Jonathan. Hello to you all. All right. Well, last week, one of our biggest complaints, I guess you could say, was who are these people? So this week we're going to kind of give you a little, I guess, brief bio of our background with this game and possibly other games. Roy, do you want to start off first?
Hey folks, I'm Director of Internal Affairs at GBN. I've been playing games since the formation of Dirt, basically. My first gaming machine was a Coleco Telstar. I've played since Commodore 64 was a thing, and you used to have to type in your games rather than load them off a disk. I've been playing Guild Wars since the release in April of 2005 for Guild Wars 1. I tend to tie my long-term playing with my real-life backgrounds of business and business finance and economics. So I get some weird ideas and some interesting ways to look at things, and trying to understand corporate behavior or what if companies acting against their own interest or the players. Glad to be here. Hope I can help others see through the curtain and understand people pulling the levers behind the games.
And I am the Guild Master for GameBreaker Nation, the Guild Wars 2 branch. I enjoy long walks on the virtual beach and slaying my enemies with my Nord's Mighty Stein. But before Guild Wars 2, I basically played a lot of MMOs, everything from like EverQuest to, WoW, Rift, all of them. I played Horizons, which was, I still argue, a good game. But probably before that, I would watch my brother play Ultima Online and Legends of Kesme. I really like medieval style games, whether they're realistic based or more fantasy. I'm always in Mumble when I'm playing the game, so if you're part of GameBreaker Nation, hop on. I like to talk about any games, really. And if I don't know what it is, I'll gladly nod my head along and let you teach me everything about it. Aaron, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So I'm the event planner over at the Guild Wars 2 Guild for Gamebreaker Nation, same guild as Deo, Jonathan. And basically what I do is I help John and Jim, our regular host, who's not here this week. I help them plan fun stuff to do with the guild and stuff like that. I played Guild Wars 1 since 2006 and fell in love with it, so naturally moved on to Guild Wars 2. Spent thousands of hours in both games, so I hope to spend many more.
And lastly, Robin.
Hello. I'm a writer for GameBreaker. I'm also a member of a few of the GameBreaker Nation guilds, and I'm also a super moderator for MMO Champion because I play lots of MMOs, and I started with WoW and did a lot of things there and have branched out from there. I've been playing Guild Wars 2 since the open beta weekends and kind of picked it up and fell in love with the game and stuck with it. Really enjoy the lore, all of that stuff. And yeah, that's about it for me.
All right, I think that appeased our one of many comments, but that was really one of the bigger issues. But let's move along and talk about some of the news before we get into, they had this like little patch and nothing big happened in it, but we'll get to it and we'll talk about it. But let's talk about on the forums, they are apparently saying macros are okay for instruments. Royby, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this was really this was kind of an interesting thing. The question's been out there for quite a while whether or not where we can and can't use macros, and they kind of clarified it for those that want to use macros for using the in-game instruments. Gail Gray had took this to customer support and asked them about it, and customer support came came back and said, go for it. It doesn't have anything to do with gameplay in the way you use the macros. We don't mind if you want to set up a whole song on a macro and go ahead and play it. So yeah, it's kind of nice to hear that, you know, we have a little more flexibility than what we've always been afraid of.
What do you guys think about them saying it's okay for macros, since they've been against macros, or basically the stance was if it's anything that does, if you click one button, it does more than one action, that was considered a macro to them, and that was bannable. But I think Roy said the stance was, since it didn't really involve gameplay, or at least in like player versus environment or PvP or World v World, they were pretty okay with it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're able to differentiate what you're using the macro for, I don't have a problem with it. So as long as they know, like, oh, that person's using an instrument, we don't need to ban them. That's cool. I don't mind it.
Which shouldn't be an issue for them to tell something like that.
Yeah, the only problem people on the forums are having is between those that use macros and those that play by hand. The people that play by macros, they're you know, the artist versus the programmer kind of discussion as to, is it fair for those that can play by hand? My look at it is, if I was somebody that played by hand, I'd be playing songs that people would want to hear, but would be off the beaten path enough so that people would know they weren't being played, you know, by a macro. So, you know, people macro stuff like games songs or something like that. But to see somebody do something, you know, something out of Bach or something out of Mozart would not be something I think you would actually sit down and macro out. So, you know, I think if people are artistic enough with their playing, they can basically be understood to be playing rather than using a macro to make it. So I think the creativity side of it, and get it, you know, because people will throw money at you for doing a good job on a song. Those people that can do a better job than those that would use a macro, I think, would get, you know, a little more out of it as far as having money thrown at them.
Well, the question,
but that seems to be the Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
I was just going to say the question would be, like, how intricate can they get with those macros? Like, I don't know. I haven't done a macro for the music, so I don't know exactly how involved you can get with it. Like, is it just, you know, like note, 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 and you can't change the tempo? Or, like, can you actually change the tempo, change the length of notes, and various things like that through the macros? Because if you can do all of that, then you absolutely could macro out like a whole Bach sonata of you playing. So that would be the question to me on that one.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. I know you can hold a note down because it acts just like a skill on your bar. You hold a note down, it plays a note. So you have a timing thing there that you can do. So yeah, it could be very well that they could be very explicit on following a piece of music. I think by putting flourishes in that shows that you're playing by hand kind of would, you know, kind of make it a little different so that, you know, the programmers might not be able to keep up with it. But that, again, that's the discussion that's being had by this segment is it fair to be able to make money off of playing an instrument that you're not playing, that you programmed for? Personally, I think it is, because the way I look at it is you have to have the smarts enough to be able to make the program make it do what you want. So, you know, you're showing a different skill in the system, but it's still, you know, to hear a song like that, it'd be worth it, you know.
But
and I don't think anybody's coming up short.
But can you use that same logic of someone that's actually botting? They have that program.
Oh no. This has
or not.
You can't. No, that it doesn't. To me, that's where your difference is, you know, if somebody's botting, that's a completely different thing, because with botting, you can actually be more efficient than a player on a lot of different levels. You know, if somebody wants to program a piece of music and hope somebody's going to give them a gold for it here or there, that's one thing. To actually game the system by being able to do something better than a person, no, that's not going to work.
I mean, what you're saying right there is for botting in a PvE sense, they're doing it more efficiently than a person. They're doing it more efficiently playing the instrument. It's just their choice of this is what they wanted to do. So wouldn't it still be
Well, it's the
botting?
difference between a guarantee. Well, it's still the
I see
difference
what you're saying,
between.
Roy.
Yeah, it's still the difference
Honestly,
between
I'll play
the
devil's
possibility of
advocate.
somebody. No. And really, the thing is, with botting, you're guaranteed an outcome. By doing music, you're not. It's a community-based event that it's up to a person to walk by and say, "Hey, that sounds pretty good. I'll throw you half a gold." Whereas if you're botting, you're actually out in the real world, and you're getting something every time you do it. So, yeah, it's completely different. I don't have a problem with the fact that it exists now, and that it's allowed. To me, it just seems like a decent way to do things.
Yeah. I would
Yeah, I'm
agree.
definitely glad that they came out and said that we're not going to ban people for it. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate of technically it is botting because you're using the macro to do one thing, but it's like you guys are saying, what are they getting out of it? It's they might get 1 or 2 gold here or there.
Yeah.
Let alone
And
that
like I said,
that one Divinity's Reach person that's like a homeless beggar guy that everybody sends like
oh,
gold to.
I've already sent him a lot of gold. I just like that guy. He actually thought of something, and it's like, yeah, I've sent a few gold to his way.
Any other thoughts on the macros as instruments, or we're pretty fine with all that? Like we're fine with them. All these people botting.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, whatever,
I've
man.
figured out various things for other people and given them the notes and the spreads and all that so that they could play them. So, like, to me, I'm not bothered by any of that. Like, I don't care if somebody else plays a tune I figured out for them, like, and doesn't give me credit. I don't care about that. I don't think that using a macro to play a tune flawlessly is a problem because, like Roby said, you took time to figure out how to get it in there and play it and all of that. Plus, I would imagine it would probably be pretty easy to tell people who are or aren't using them because, like, if you're not using a macro, you can just play a little part and then stop if somebody talks to you or whatever. But if you're doing a macro, it seems like it would go through the whole thing without stopping, So, meh. I'm not fussed.
I guess moving from one. I mean, honestly, I find instruments to be sometimes annoying, especially early on when they had just the Mariner horn and people just did the Doppler thing and just went. But moving
I
from
actually
one
had somebody
annoying.
follow me with that horn.
I have my instrument sounds turned off, so.
Yeah, luckily they put
Yeah,
that in.
slash report happened.
Which hopefully they put something in for the next thing, the job-o-tron backpack.
No muting that.
I'd like to mute it. I'm not gonna lie. It'd be
So
great.
entertaining.
So annoying.
For now. Because as soon as they said that, I was like, I instantly thought of those events like Mad King Says, or like, I mean, I still probably think back to Guild Wars 1 ones where they did a lot more migrating of characters in like a specific zone. Everybody just standing there and just hearing the job-o-trons just chirping. I was already annoyed before it happened.
Well, so I have it, and the thing I noticed is that so like if it did something every time you jumped, that would get really annoying really quickly. But it seems to have a fairly low rate of going, like, and it amuses me when I don't expect it. I'll jump and he'll be like boing, or my no impression is getting really good or whatever. It's really funny. Like, I never know what he's gonna say, and it's just really random. Like, I imagine if you had like 100 people all using it at once, it would be pretty consistent and would get annoying pretty quickly. But I don't know. I think it's funny and I'm amused by it. It's also another thing that I think right now will probably be when we'll see it the most, and over time they'll be around a lot less. So even if it is kind of annoying right now, it'll get less annoying.
Yeah,
See, you don't know what he's gonna say now. Just wait. You'll know exactly what he's gonna say, and you're gonna get sick of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's only a certain amount of like lines of dialogue, so eventually you're gonna hear the same thing, and
Well, that's true, and like I've told you guys many times, my real annoyance with my Safari is she's constantly saying, "Here, this rose has thorns, and here they are." It drives me crazy. So like, I'm sure I would probably get to that point eventually, but I'm not right now. I love it. I think it's sweet.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of the job-o-tron back piece. I'm a fan of it from what it looks like and the idea, but then it's like, then you realize, oh, I'm in an MMO. Oh God, everybody else is gonna have one.
I'm gonna follow you around and just jump around behind you with it.
That is definitely not gonna be an event.
She will. She'll do it.
Totally should be an event. Follow Deo around with the job-o-tron backpack. New
Yeah,
event.
we can make it happen.
It's coming.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the table.
It's a coming.
Which we do on Wednesdays and one-off events. So head on over to GameBreakerNation.com. Shameless plug. It's not selfish.
Do that. Do that though. It's a good idea.
But and this part kind of became more prevalent with the new living story thing, which we'll talk about and go into in a second, just because we definitely want to dedicate a lot of time to that. But so, and there will be spoilers in that, just as a heads up, but we'll warn you again. But the multiplayer instance or single player instance living story content design. Aaron, would you want to shed some light on that?
Yeah, so basically the story on how this kind of topic came up for us, it was me and Roy and John were partied up to do the living story with a couple of other guildies, and we're about to go into one of the instances, and we're like, you guys just wait, this is amazing. There's all these books in here, you're going to get to read all of them, it'll blow your mind. We get in the instance, and nobody can read the books except the instance owner. And even when the instance owner reads the books, they don't show up for the rest of us. And that was really disappointing for the 3 people in the instance who hadn't done the living story before. And so the issue here is that the instance kind of is anti-group because when you go in, none of the people can read the books. And that's arguably one of the hugest points of that instance. So what I'd like to see ArenaNet do is maybe tie interactivity to the other players in the group more in the instances, just so that stuff like this doesn't happen, so that we don't run into bumps like this where people can't experience parts of the game because they're in a group, because it discourages group gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, for
Go
me,
ahead, Robin.
oh yeah, go ahead. If you have an idea, go for it.
No, my headset just made a weird noise, so I was like, what happened? What I was going to say was, usually they seem really good at making that sort of things happen. Like most of the time when you go into instances and stuff with other people and they interact with stuff, you can see it. So like, yeah, I was really pissed off because I was in the same situation when I was doing it and I wasn't the instance owner, and I was like, I want to explore all of this stuff and I can't do anything. Yeah. But it's just weird that on this one they didn't do it, which it confuses me because, like I said, they usually do it. So I'm not sure what happened.
The main reason it happened was because your character name shows up in one of the books or 2 of the books as part of the history. So that is where the problem stems from, I believe. I didn't consider it. I mean, I was upset, but more because it broke the flow of the evening, because we all had to wait. And I don't mean to be taking anything away from the player we were playing with, whose instance it was. They had every right to look at what they wanted to, and I wasn't mad at them for it. It just put 4 people on hold while they did what they wanted to, and it really did make for a bit of a disruption in the evening's plans. Again, I'm very pleased with the content that came out this time. It was tremendous amount, lots of lore dropped. Unfortunately, this one thing marred the experience, and I think that, my concern is I just want ArenaNet to get the idea that they can't really do this on. They either have to make a choice. They either have to warn people ahead of time that content is going to be singular player and you need to see this in a singular player mode first, or understand that you're not going to see it right away. And they've, like you said, they've done so well at this one thing and to have it blow up this one time, just let us see it even with the player's name in it. That would have been fine. But not, just sitting there and waiting and going, what's going on? Oh, I'm reading. Oh, okay, no problem. Are you done yet? No, okay, hold on. That's no problem. Take your time. It kind of makes for a drag.
Yep, I agree. It makes you more hesitant about doing future things like that with your friends, and that's one of the joys of Guild Wars 2 is you can generally do everything with your friends. And when you suddenly are like, hey, love to play with you, but I want to be able to do this stuff or at least see it too, that's not good.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Roy said at the beginning that it was like a minor thing, but then I started thinking, this is a game that prides itself on end game as kind of the like you can use story as the end game or as the interesting thing that keeps you coming back. So while it seems minor from like another game's perspective where they have a carrot on the stick or raids or PvP that's like very progressive, this game really relies on like interesting skins, interesting story. So for someone to see in an MMO, and I know there are people out there that believe you don't have to be in a group for an MMO, and I do agree with that to an extent, but it should still have that option because it's not a single player story. Even like the personal story, personal doesn't necessarily mean single player. It just means it's fine tuned to you, and you could still take people in. They could still see the dialogue. I never saw anybody complain about the immersion of, oh hey, no, Treherne said I was special. What's this about? So I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on? Is it severe if it continues with this path, or were you just blowing it out?
I don't know about severe, but it's kind of annoying, and I hope they understand that they made a mistake with it and don't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the way I look at it. This is a design flaw within the game. They have to, if they're going to be doing this content like this, they have to understand that's one of the things they have to be careful of. They do talk about this a lot in other releases that, we try to balance the single player versus the multiplayer. This is one of those fine lines they're walking, and this time I think personally it failed. Now, again, overall in the scheme of things, does it matter? How many people are doing this with a group? That's another question you have to figure out, and how many people are doing it with a group after they've seen the content, rather than trying to do it together and see it for the first time together. So there are different issues involved with this, but again, this is one of those times where for me personally, it didn't work. And Aaron's in the same boat because we're in the same group.
Mm-hmm. I'm in the same boat too.
I just think the interactivity option should be there. Whether you go there or whether everybody goes and reads the stuff or not is up to you as a group. But I definitely think the option for everyone to interact with every interactable thing should be there.
At the very least, if you can't interact, be able to see what the other person is seeing. Exactly. Very least.
Yeah, and that's honestly what I was expecting. And this one didn't. So I'm wondering if that was like a bug or an oversight or something.
Yeah, that's honestly what I was expecting because we were all going as a group on Tuesday nights when we do it, and I ran ahead because I knew we were going to do the show, so I kind of wanted to spend as much time as I could on the, all the lore stuff, and I was like, oh, I definitely don't want to go in this instance. I know it's a lot of clicking, and I don't want to be the person going, is everybody good? We're going to move on. Is everybody okay?
Have you read all the words?
Yeah. There's going to be a quiz at the end, so make sure you pay attention. So I was like, yeah, and I didn't also want to be like, since I probably wasn't going to read, I didn't want to be like, oh, it was 5 seconds, that's good enough. So I wanted someone that didn't do it managing it, and all of a sudden we found out that only they could see it, and yeah, that was kind of a weird, hopefully oversight.
Mm-hmm.
Any other ideas on this?
No, I think we table flipped it enough.
Just fix it.
I think everybody's excited to get to this minuscule, the actual content of the patch. I mean, anything happen.
I mean, it's not a big deal if we miss it. Nobody wants to hear about that, right?
Yeah, there's nothing there. But I think at this moment we are going to talk about the lore's with spoilers. So if you're trying to avoid it, this is why we kind of do it on a Saturday to give you as much time and still be relevant. Thanks for tuning in. Go to GameBreakerNation.com, all that fun stuff. But we're going to continue spoiler free. You've had plenty of warnings, so here it comes.
Spoiler
First,
alert.
yeah,
Spoilers start now.
exactly.
Spoilers now.
So this week's release was Echoes of the Past, and we're going to basically break it down. I don't know what you want to call them. I always call them missions because I'm used to Guild Wars 1, but piece by piece of each instance-based thing. So we're going to start with Ghosts of Fort Salma. Who wants? Aaron, do you want to? I see you like kind of shaking there. You're ready to explode there. So.
Oh no, I was just kind of rolling my eyes because the Ghosts of Fort Salma mission, it's really forced. It doesn't have much to do with anything. So they kind of just tacked it on the beginning, like, the explorer that you need to talk to is at Fort Salma doing research. And then when we get to Fort Salma and we save the Priory person, they don't even tell us what they were researching, really, or they don't finish their research. They're just like, oh, thanks for saving me. I guess I'll leave. What were you doing here? Why were you here? But yeah, it was a
I don't know, but we took some
interesting mission.
Defense
Though,
at it.
I don't know. I think some of the point of it was, so there was a lot of speculation about whether Mordremoth could soak up ghosts and like consume them, because people were looking at it like ghosts are a type of magic or contain magic or whatever. So I think in that aspect, it was important to go there and see that there were ghosts there and hanging out there, because that kind of feeds into that where, I wonder what's going to happen now. Are they going to get consumed? Or if they just stay there when he's got all those tendrils all over the place, that might be kind of an indication that maybe ghosts are different. And if they are magic, then maybe there's a kind of magic that the elder dragons don't consume or something. So I think that was more the reason of it. But I mean, it was good to see Belinda and get that whole line too. But I think the other part was also a reason why we went there. It was less about, like you said, the Priory person, but more, I think, introducing the, hey, there's ghosts here and this might come back and matter.
Yeah, I definitely think the main reason for the mission was Belinda's spirit being infused into her sword. Because since they bothered to make that into a full-blown cutscene, which was an impressive cutscene, by the way. I really liked Marjorie's eye animations. They conveyed emotion really well.
Yes.
But I think Belinda being in the sword will definitely surface later in the story and will become a key point in some quest somewhere.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, have we seen a weapon being like haunted before? Like,
No,
I feel like
that was something completely new. Yeah.
That was completely new.
Yeah, we've never seen an actual weapon become made magic.
I don't want to say never. I want to say off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
Okay.
But I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any of them either, and I'm comfortable in saying never. I just don't remember ever seeing one done. And that's kind of really interesting thing. The other thing I really did care, I liked about the whole first mission was actually them using a lack of verbal cues and doing silence and facial animations to get the emotional part of the story over. I'd like to see them do more of that. I think their engine actually is flexible enough to do it. Some people that I read complained about it looked kind of stretchy. It didn't look natural. I personally was kind of blown away by the way the whole interaction went between the ghost and Marjorie. So I hope they continue to do that.
Yeah.
And
someone in chat made a pretty good point. Down in Blaze Ridge Steeps, there's a heart where you have to, I know the one he's talking about too, where you have to throw Ascalonian weapons at the branded to make the ghosts fight the branded, and it's because the weapons are infused with ghost spirits. So actually they're playing off something that we have seen directly in game before. So thank you for pointing that
that's
out.
true, yeah.
Which is interesting with one theory, but I do want to, someone in chat, and I think we talked about this instantly, was great sword wielding necros.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was where we all went with it.
I mean, granted, we do have Traherne as well, which is also another. I know a lot of people like to forget about him, but
I did.
he does
actually.
exist.
I did.
Yeah, he's a person.
No, like it's for me, it's one of those things because they did have last year where they mentioned, you know, adding more weapons to more professions and getting that in, and then they ended up having to back off and being like, oh, what will happen this year, but we'll still work on it, and then we haven't heard anything about it again. So I feel like they also had to have the conversation when they were setting this up, like, hey, we're making another Necro wielding a greatsword. People are going to be like, hey, remember that idea they had and they didn't do anything with it? What happened to that? So I'm hopeful, maybe I'm just getting my hopes up for no reason, but I'm hopeful that perhaps they are getting closer to putting that in and we might see it soon.
And yeah, they definitely did say that it's more likely that they will
And it's ready.
have more weapons or open up weapons to more professions than a new profession in general. So hopefully, I mean, we are kind of attacking these dragons that release magic back into the world. We have more abilities to use magic, and come on, we can work it in there. You know, let's
Yeah, the
be
Bloodstones still keep it separated though, so we're not going to get anything more. We'll just
For now.
I would love. Now here you go. Let's do it. Let's do a tinfoil hat moment. What if they use the excuse of more magic in the world to start providing vertical progression? Oh my God, we're going to start doing more damage because we've been around longer.
That would be awesome. Second birthday, I get a buff where I can just start slaying people easier. It'd be broken, but I'd love it. But no, I think the one thing that's interesting is afterwards you can talk to the researcher again, and she actually mentions that they were killed so quickly that their spirit stayed there, which kind of reminded me of the faux fire.
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe we don't fully understand what the faux fire was. I mean, it's just based on kind of hearsay. Like it could, and yeah, I know it's like, oh, retconning, but if we don't fully know the information, is it still retconning?
Yeah. No.
No, it's clarification of the lore. I mean, I don't think it's retconning. That would be saying A, B, and C didn't happen and D, E, and F did now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they've changed a couple of things before, like, because everything previously was all from the human point of view, and then moving into Guild Wars 2, you got the other point of views of the other races and stuff, which changed some of the information because you found out, hey, some of the human history that they were telling wasn't quite accurate, you know, because people do that. And again, I don't look at that as retconning either. It's just clarifying through other sources of information. So, like, in that sense, what we know is a perspective on it, if like what we think happened, but we don't know what happened. And I feel like if they go further with this Ritlock storyline with him going through the ghost portal misty thingy, we might learn more that we didn't know from it. I think they're going somewhere with it, basically.
Well, and I guess this will be like a super tinfoil hat moment, but I mean, we think that Ritlock was trying to close the or end the faux fire curse. I mean, and they say he has to be an heir of Ascalon. What if he had the essence of Rurik in I'm gonna butcher the name, but it's like Sohofen. Sorry. I'm sorry, internet. But I mean, what's your thoughts of that? I mean, we don't know how he got it from the Ring of Fire, so.
Oh, Livia gave it to him.
Oh, really? Is that okay?
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, when I was there, you know, I saw it on the floor as I was leaving. I might as well pick it up. I mean, waste not, want not."
No, but that's actually a really good thing to point out, that they showed that you could bind a spirit to a sword in this episode. So that's actually a really cool way they could make it resurface and make Ritlock able to cleanse the foe fire. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah,
Because that would make a lot of
actually makes
sense.
And it's just weird that they also at that same time, like I said, you talk to that researcher, and she even talks about like, oh, they were they were killed instantly, but their spirits remained, which was basically what the faux fire did. So I was like, huh. So hopefully
I thought that
plays
was
out.
weird too. Because leading up into this patch before it launched, my big question was, why are there ghosts there? That's a faux fire thing, and so I was just really weirded out by like the fact that they put ghosts there.
Well, ghosts
We
exist
also
throughout
see
the game.
ghosts
It's
in
not just in
Puma.
Ascalon. So, you know, I think they, as they pointed out, is people that had either unfinished things to do or, well, it's like the ghost down in Kessex Hills. Yep, we're escorting the guy around to show his family, you know.
Which is the saddest set of missions in the game, I just want to say. I got to the end of that and it was like,
and there's also ghosts farther in Meguma over in Brisbane Wildlands near the ruins of the Henja Ravi too.
So I mean, you know, it's not ghosts being around aren't really related to faux fire, but the idea that we have there's a way that ghosts can inhabit inanimate objects to enhance magic on them. That's kind of an interesting take to do on swords and stuff that we already know have magic involved with them. So it gives them some extra storytelling room.
And honestly, that weirdly enough, that was kind of the most forgettable part of the story for me. Like I went back early or like yesterday or the day before, like trying to refresh my memory, and I was like, oh yeah, I have to go to Kessex Hills and do this one. So I mean, I don't know if another one was like less for you, but for me it was interesting but forgettable
for me. Yeah.
I think the main thing they want you to take away from it is the binding of the spirit to the sword.
Yeah.
The question I think is interesting is, I think the answer is probably yes, but I think it'd be interesting to explore if the object that the ghost wants to inhabit has to be personally strongly tied to that person before they died, or if like they could do an object just that's like carried by somebody they were close to, or like I really want to know the parameters of what it takes for a ghost to inhabit an inanimate object. Like what's required there.
I mean, my guess is they just have to be willing to, because I would be surprised how Rorik, if they went the route of Rorik's in the sword, you know, the other sword of Ritlock's. I'm trying to avoid the name because I know I'll still butcher it. But how is he gonna you know, I know our people have been enemies for so long, but up in the sword.
Well, there's also the possibility that if a ghost, once they're dead, they stay the way they are forever, or if they have the potential to like grow and change as a character, and like you could think that in the time he was dead, yeah, they were fighting Char and stuff, but he could have gotten to the point where he recognizes the qualities of Ritlock as being worthy for whatever variety of reasons. Also, we have no idea how he got the sword in the first place. So, like, there could be a lot there. There's a lot they can play with there.
Well, I mean, Livia gave him the sword, obviously, but so we need to make a distinction between ghosts and spirits that have passed on into the mist. Rurik is dead. He is straight up dead. He's in the mist. So I think if you're a spirit that's moved on to the mist, you might still be able to grow as a character there. But I don't know that ghosts actually can advance their intelligence, because it's like the story you see with that guy in Kessex Hills. He's lost and searching for his family. You know, he can't move past that. The ghosts in the faux fire, they've been fighting the Char for 200 years now. They can't move past it. They're incapable of it. So, yeah, I'm definitely excited to follow Ritlock, see where he ended up.
Well, honestly, I felt that was one of the shorter stories, but lo and behold, you know, there's so much to pull from just even a short segment like that, but I think we should definitely move on to the next one. Reunion with the Pact, which was definitely interesting. Um, they basically, this is where they introduced the new zone, the like new collectibles, all that stuff. But I mean, does someone want to clear like what happened in that story, or?
Traherne's making decisions
Yay.
all by himself.
Without
It blew
you.
me away.
Well,
Without
he
you.
is the marshal.
He is actually doing stuff without asking me first if it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what really is interesting is if you haven't go around and talk to every NPC in there on multiple like racial characters, like I know there's one interesting thing if you're Char, if you go over to Rock, she's talking with someone, and they immediately stop and separate. You can actually follow. Like it made me do this twice specifically because I went over to that other Char on my Norn, and as soon as I walked near him, she was like, "Oh, don't worry about him." I was like, "Oh, I'm clicking on him. I gotta find
Clearly
this
he's
out."
important.
Yeah. But apparently, if you go on as a Char, you can actually order him to give his name, rank, his like warband, and apparently his name is Monty Scythescape, Scrape, sorry, and which is definitely interesting because you find out that they were in the same like mining facility, but they weren't in the same warband. Like they worked close with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, that was just one thing. I'm pretty sure, and it's even like the small dialogue, not even with like rocks and like some of the people you'd expect. But I remember in one of the like it looked like the almost like cafeteria or like mess hall like thing. There are 4 Norns standing there, and they were talking about fighting out here. And the one was like, "If it gets any warmer out here, I'm gonna probably fight without my armor." And they said, "Well, that's one way to make your legend." And I was like, "Okay," I was like, "That's pretty good." So
Yeah.
definitely walk around everywhere in these instances. You can see on the mini map your barrier. Walk to the edges of that. Like,
Yeah, the side dialogues have always been part of my favorite thing because sometimes it's random and it's not important, but it's amusing. But then other times it's like, hey, that's an interesting little thing there, you know. And I really liked when I was wandering around there, I'd go past certain NPCs and they'd cheer for me, and I was like, hey, yay, that's cool. You know, there's a lot to do. I'd spend time in there.
yeah, honestly, I didn't have that
thought the
same.
Pact
Oh, go
camp
ahead.
was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have the same feeling until or since like after you defeat Zaitan and you're walking back into Fort Trinity and they're like, "Oh, hey, you're awesome, you're great," and then they kind of brought that back, and I was like, "Hey, I am pretty great, aren't I? I
Yeah,
am part of this story."
I'm awesome.
And this kind of also goes for a lot of stuff that people in forums talk about. There's a constant thread that keeps coming around about, you know, ArenaNet, why do you always destroy stuff? Why don't you make stuff in the game? It's nice to see that in this situation we're building something. We're building a new forward base for the Pact and with the Pact, and that kind of, you know, that is getting some more ownership for the people playing, because we're helping them do that. We're protecting them while they're doing this, and now when they blow it up later, we're going to be, you know, even more hurt because we have actually helped to build it. So if they do, you know, the idea that there are two sides to everything, you know, destruction and construction. It's just nice to see that they're building stuff and making new stuff, and we're part of that.
Also, the music in this patch.
Oh my God,
ass.
awesome.
When you enter
Good job,
that
guys.
story instance reunion with the Pact, it
Yeah.
blew me away how badass the music was. It was epic.
Yep.
Very cool.
And throughout the whole update, the music was just very impressive. I was very happy to hear new music and just really well thought out music that really fits with every part that you're doing and everything that's going in. It was very well done. I'm excited for that. I'm like,
Yeah.
and now I need another CD with that music.
Yeah, I think they put it all up on SoundCloud, so
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty cool.
But I mean, I think the one interesting thing that comes out of this is, at least that, like I said, goes back to that Monty Scythe Scrape guy. He was from the Scythe Warband. Is that another nod to we're gonna get Dervish, or at least a scythe weapon? Like,
Okay, here's what I think about the name. So I mean, clearly he's Rox's ex-boyfriend, right? But so her warband
we're gonna
actually
need a disclaimer for you. Like, these are not the thoughts of ArenaNet or.
We do not necessarily share these opinions.
these are the
Yeah,
insane
let's
ramblings
just
of
put our
Aaron Heath.
tinfoil hats
but-
on now.
Anyway, so she was actually part of Work Detail in her old warband. They were miners. So I think his warband was probably, and they were the pick warband because they used picks. So I think that guy was probably a part of a gathering detail that would have used scythes as their primary work tool, because she said she knew him back from the old days when she was a miner. So that's kind of where I think that name comes from.
Gotta
I'll go with
squash-
Dervish confirmed.
Yeah, I know.
I've
Gotta
got your back.
squash our dreams there. And apparently he turns out to be Livia. I mean, is that how you want to play this?
No, wait.
No,
thought
I mean, I
the
think
niece
we
was
all know
Olivia.
who's going to turn out to be Livia, but
Yeah, that's a
Well, see, his side is going to open up the gateway to go to Cantha.
Oh boy.
dude, you keep making Colin Johansson turn off our podcast. He tunes in every week, and then he mentions Cantha, and he turns it off.
Like, no.
He's gonna stop coming, guys.
I agree with Chad. Gardening Dervish confirmed. There we go.
Mm.
It'll just be another
Guardian
Catherine
Toe.
Toll. A Dervish will just
Oh,
pop
wait,
up and
Guardian
slide it. Just throw it in the gem store. It'll be amazing.
Guardian Dervish. It's like the Guardians are overpowered enough.
No. Guardians. Perfect where they are, but if they want to add more, it just makes it even better. But no, they're not broken. They're not nothing. They're great where they are. Don't touch them. None of you.
They're OP.
No. All right. Let's move on to Case Reconnaissance Squad. And I have to laugh at this one because I was so invested in like looking at every bit of dialogue, it actually threw me off when I was reading it. It was like basically you go to find Kaith and her the couple of troops she was taking with her for a scouting party, and you come to a corpse, and Canuck shows up and says, "Don't touch it. He's put a mine in him. You have the option to mine the rest of them to help you fight the Mordrum, get to Kaith, all that fun stuff." But when they were talking with the dialogue, all of a sudden she was like, or Canuck refers to her as my sister, and I was like, wait a minute, what? And it didn't even occur to me that I was like, oh wait, they're Sylvari. That's
Yeah.
They're
I
all
did
brothers.
think
Your mind was blown for a split second.
It was, and I was like, it's even double confirmation because Kaith refers to him as her brother, and I was like, wait a minute, hold on, think for a second, like so.
Hey, now my question
I
is,
was too
does
invested.
that make Tanaka firstborn?
No.
No,
That,
Canuck's not.
he's her younger brother, she says. So
That's fine. Yeah, that's the only thing that they might have been trying to get across at that point was where he was born at, or when he was born, rather.
Yeah, he's. I think they've established exactly where he was, but I don't remember which one. He's definitely not firstborn, and I think it might be second. I'm not sure. But yeah, I was with you there. I literally had a moment where I was like, "That's a bomb! Oh my god!" And then I was like, "Oh, right, never mind."
Yeah, I also was like, how wasn't anybody making a bigger deal about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that mission was more of a straightforward mission than a lore bomb, because they already put like a big lore bomb mission in. So this mission was more of just a fun, straightforward combat mechanics mission to play, and I enjoyed it for what it was. It has the big reveal at the end of that big Mordrum, scary looking thing. It's like a bulb. It's purple, but I think that's just going to end up being another big bad Mordrum we have to fight. So it wasn't a huge deal to the lore. It was just advancing the plot as far as you're fighting the dragon.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like about it, and I couldn't figure out where it broke on me, But when I got to Kate's party where they were fighting in that little place with the rock, everything went invulnerable on me, and I could not fight or kill it. And the thing was, even if I actually used the bombs correctly, because I seriously thought I messed something up. But for some reason, all the mobs in that one went invulnerable on me. So basically, the 10 minutes that I put into it became useless. I had to go and restart it, and reinvest the 10 or 15 minutes to get to the point where Kate would move on. I don't know. It's what happened, and
I mean, was that early on? Because I know there were
bugs.
bug fixes. I mean, was that?
It was
Sounds like a
Friday,
bug.
Have a problem.
Thursday.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was Thursday or Friday when I did it because it was after we had run, and it was either the next day, so Wednesday or Thursday, really. And
Yeah, that sounds weird.
yeah, when I ran it, it bugged out, and I couldn't advance it. So, that was the bigger issue I had with the whole thing, other than not being able to read the books when we were together. But yeah, that kind of, it's a bug. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah,
flip tables. That's what you do.
And I was gonna
Basically what I
say,
did.
you call it fun. I don't know how many times I dodge rolled off that cliff at the end.
You
Luckily, it
wait.
spawned you right back up.
I never made it
Oh
off the
my
cliff. I
gosh.
hadn't thought of that.
I got stopped by an invisible wall, so I thought it was impossible to dodge roll off of that.
Maybe they put that in later, but I hit the floor a couple times there.
If you're a Norn, you can get through it. That's how it works.
If you're annoying, yeah, you can just roll over it.
Yeah.
You can just easily step over it, but
I was on my Norn Ranger, so maybe they just like me more than you.
they're like, put down the wall
I
now.
was like, save Arlie.
But luckily, it spawns you right back up there, so it's not a huge deal. But I was a little nervous when I was trying to go for the achievement of don't let anyone die. I was like, no. But yeah, I think that one was mainly just to progress the story and maybe show you one of the bigger baddies at the end was that big plant thing.
It was a fun mission. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The big fight
when
at
it
the
worked
end.
right, it was great. Playing it with 5 people or playing it singly, it was really good.
Singly, it was
had to
actually a
kind
bit of a
think little
challenge
bit
for me, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ending was the ending. The ending doesn't matter how many you kill; it's just a timer.
Yeah.
So you could actually run around and not do anything, and I think it'll still advance. I don't
Probably.
think you have to kill anything on it.
But good luck with that. I mean, and besides,
Yeah.
that's why you play Norn. You don't back down from that kind of a challenge. I was gonna say I didn't have a problem with Norn Guardian. I mean, except for dodge rolling off a cliff.
They're overpowered.
Exactly. Teo does the work for them.
The gravity was my biggest enemy. No, Norn Guardian is not OP. Don't touch it.
Can we talk about the next part?
I don't think.
Nah,
anybody
we're gonna skip that.
We're kind of
go
slow.
I mean, that part wasn't really that pertinent, was it?
Oh no, not at all. I only just fell out of my chair and was like, oh my god.
I was in
Okay,
there
buddy.
for more than an hour because they were putting a new build into the game, and I got kicked out. I had to restart it because I was in there for so long.
That's funny.
And if anybody doesn't know, we're talking about Hidden Arcana, which is the Durman Priory in the basement.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, basically the last instance was the hidden arcana, as he's saying.
Where did you
Basically you go to seek Ogden Stone Healer. I'm just blanking on names. I can't. Yeah,
You know the one dwarf in the game.
I'm holding
There's
out.
only
There are many
one.
dwarves. No, there are many dwarves.
The only confirmed dwarf in the game.
That one
Moving
is
on.
ours.
There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Exactly. But I think the biggest thing is what we've been kind of hinting at and we're talking about with the multiplayer versus single player instance thing was basically the books in this library, which was just lore to an infinite extent. It was fantastic for lore people. Like, what were some of your guys' favorite parts of it? Like, I know mine.
My favorite part, one of my favorite parts really came out to be that the statue of Abaddon And everybody was, oh my God, Abaddon, Abaddon, Abaddon. It's actually there as a warning to the people in the Priory to make sure they understand that secrets have power, and to remind them that to keep secrets is a bad thing. That's the only, I can't think of the dev's name, but that's even pretty much what they said. They found the model and it was like, oh, we got to include this somehow. And it really came down to being nothing more than a warning. And, everybody, even us, we were all like, oh my God, Abaddon's coming back. Something's up. We didn't really kill him, or, whatever. And it just turns out to be this great way to put a warning in for people to keep secrets, to make sure they do it in a moral way. I think really that was the most fun that came out of that for me.
I'm not sure that it's going to be limited to that. Like, I don't think necessarily Abaddon's going to come back, but like one of the things I theorized back when we were doing the voting to decide which thing we wanted added to the fractals is the two choices we had was Thermanova or Abaddon, and I couldn't see them giving those two options because Thermanova obviously was going to be tied in somewhere. I think something with Abaddon is going to be tied in too. We just haven't gotten there yet. So that's my theory.
And I think they made close hints at it with the first part of season 2, with when you're in Scarlet's tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
She says how she was looking into Varish Asa's like commanding of troops, which was the commander for the enemy in Nightfall, basically. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like at that moment, I was like, they are definitely trying to tie either of those choices were back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the chat room, we're going to get into some of the books and just give it a couple minutes.
I was actually wanting to skip ahead to the part after the Priory.
What?
The end. Because that's the best part.
Actually, the books were my favorite part of the whole patch.
I was gonna say, you have this, let's call it egg of lore, and you want to go to the part afterwards?
The most important part.
Can I just say, I did enjoy that you can dance in front of the Abaddon statue, and
that was fun.
Yeah, that was a nice tip of the hat.
That was
and actually cool. That was actually something that was added very quickly after the designer found out that was a thing from Guild Wars 1. He said as soon as he heard it, it was in the next patch. For
anyone in chat who might not. Oh, for anyone in chat who might not know, when you go to kill Abaddon in Guild Wars 1, you could dance, and you could dance in front of him, and he would dance with you. But you couldn't stop dancing, or if you stopped dancing, you would die.
Well, so no, after a while, he actually killed all you in a message box.
He killed the whole
came
party.
Up and said
he did?
You got served.
I always understood it as if you stopped dancing, you would die. But yeah, basically, you can't win a dance off with Abaddon.
Yeah, so that was just like a nod back to Guild Wars 1 where it just instantly downs you. And it would have been great if they would have added, like, with the Nightmare Tower, how it had, like, the weird whispers when it put the Nightmare Fog on you. If you just heard, like, Abaddon whisper, like, you got served. Like, I think that would have been... I mean, over the top and great, but I mean,
the Abaddon, the god of dance.
Pretty much.
The other thing we were going through, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be decoded from Old Crichton and from New Crichton, and I kind of took that on. If you look over top of the Abaddon statue, it says something to the effect that beware of the danger of keep secrets kept. And then in the basement, when we go talk to Ogden, most of the stuff on the boxes is just double-digit numbers, 40 or 04. Some of them have a short statement that says contents are live or live contents. And then there's 2 dates on some of them. One is October 31st, which was the release date for this patch. And the other one is the upcoming release date for the upcoming patch. So that was kind of 2 little fun things that if people haven't noticed or pay attention to, they have meanings and they are meaningful.
The release for this one was November 4th.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so October 31st was one of them, which was Halloween.
Yeah.
and then the other one is for not this patch but the next one. So
Yeah.
my dates are a little off, but it's basically had to do with Halloween.
Which, I mean,
Why they
you know,
did that.
we
It was
might
kind of cool.
because didn't the box also say like new content or something like that? Or I
No,
thought
none
it
of
had
them
something
said
in
new
there.
content. The only thing that says live content.
Live content, okay. Which might have hinted at
or,
like, you know,
it's-
living
Which might have been
world.
hinting as to release dates. Yeah.
But I think it would be funny if, since October 31st was, you know, rehashed content, if they did November 18th, they were just like, oh yeah, we found this Lost Shore place, you know, like Southland Cove, as just like a joke.
Yeah,
like,
and then Tavik in chat also pointed out that there was another nod to Guild Wars 1 in that they had actually boxed up the ancient weapon from the Crystal Desert.
mhm.
And he said that he had caught that, and it says top secret Derman Priory intel do not open. So that was actually something else that was there.
Yeah,
And I
that
think-
was that along with the Leviathan encased in jade. Those were my two kind of favorite Easter eggs in the
Yeah.
storage room. Those were awesome.
And I definitely think we should always keep remember is a lot of the stuff that the Darman Priory did get was through the Order Whispers during the flooding of Lion's Arch. Like basically Lion's Arch getting destroyed the first time between the two games. So
Well, it's
Oh,
also they're
Leviathan
getting a lot
did
of
it.
stuff. They're also getting a lot of stuff sent to them boxed up for storage because they don't want the dragons. The owners don't want the dragons to get it. That's something they said in this expansion with through the things you talk to people with. That they're getting a lot of crazy stuff just that people have owned because they want the Derman Priory to protect it, and then they would at some point return it to them after the danger is past for those items.
I mean, if we're gonna speculate more on this, we'll probably head back to the books. I mean, but I know.
Let's get back to the books and we'll.
Okay, wait, really quick. There's some of the books we need to go over. Okay,
Come on.
I tried.
Come on.
there's four
They can't
books
pass
that
this
are probably the
shape.
most
Thing of
important.
lore.
Okay,
There's-
we have the Apostate's book, Map of the All, is one of the most important ones. We have Vex's thesis, and we have Gad's thesis, and also the book on the Bloodstones. Those to me stood out as and 5 books actually. The one about Canuck, not Canuck. What's his name? Malik. Yeah,
I was
Canuck.
like,
Malik being the
There's
I
a
think it's
Freudian
Nightmare
slip.
Harbinger. So yeah, those 5 books I think were the most important ones.
Yeah, it's-
Vex Treatise is interesting because on the wiki, in the notes on the bottom, they said it's anachronistic because the idea of magical consumption is something that we only learned about now. But what people forgot was it really wasn't discovered in recent times. When the person that discovered them actually took the knowledge to the Arcane Council, they said, yeah, we already knew that. We're just trying to figure out how to make money from it. It's not anything new. It's an interesting thing, but we already knew it. So to me, Vex Treatise shows that this is actually something that in some way Vex, the hero that we played with from Guild Wars 1 actually had surmised this idea, and it was actually passed down, but it was kept behind the scenes by the council to, so that they could see if they could figure a way to make money with it. Go figure, Asurans.
and it seems like that's what they were kind of doing with Tammy's waypoint thing. They were trying to see if it was going to work and how it was going to work, and then try to take it for themselves. And I think they even make mention in one of the stories that they didn't get any, like what's his name, Flunt didn't get anywhere with it, like, so everybody knows it's
Flunt.
Tammy's like work. And
Which
But,
is important.
yeah, but I mean, one of my favorite, I like them all. I like them all equally, but I honestly like the one about the Nightmare Harbinger, which talked about, like Aaron was starting to talk about, was Malik. And basically it's interesting that if you don't know the story, if you play a Sylvari, is it a particular path? I think it's, or is it one of after?
It's
a
a
certain point?
particular
Might be
path.
different
Yeah,
now.
not
Okay.
every Sylvari is going to get it.
Well, in the one path, and I'm sure someone in the chat if you know it, shout it out. You basically find this pale tree. Wow, this Sylvari along the river that doesn't come from the pale tree, which we weren't aware of. Like that could be a thing. So basically, go examine it. You find out all this stuff about him. But the leaving part is very interesting, where he basically says, I'm going to go back and find my people, tell them about you, and bring an army so we can fight the Elder Dragons. And the Nightmare Harbinger basically talks about how this Malik person isn't good or evil, you know, doesn't know about the dream, doesn't know about like Ventari's teachings, which is a big thing for the Sylvari of the Pale Tree. And it just questions all these, like, why does it look like a human if it didn't have what was based on like Ronin and all that stuff, which we were talking about it earlier in the show. If there is another Pale Tree that's possibly by a bloodstone, which this is another theory that we can get into afterwards, the bloodstones that are the one bloodstone that's near where Morgemoth is right now in Guild Wars 1 was basically a sacrificial altar, like for the Chosen. So there are a lot of schematics, let's just say, to work on that they can use. I mean, what do you guys think about the Nightmare Harbinger?
I was going to say the interesting part to me about that particular Sylvari, and now I just lost my train of thought, is that we might be misinterpreting what we saw in Omad's machine. It might not be a symbol for the one tree as the center of Tyria. It could be that the idea of all Sylvari are, rather than being a minion of the dragons in design, is actually some way the plants, those plant people are some way the protectors of Tyria, and that as more of them come to fruition, believe it or not, that works. We get we're getting a bigger group to help us save the planet, basically.
Well, and one thing to keep in mind about the popular Sylvari or minions of Morgemoth theory is there's nothing in recorded history about Sylvari before. And if Morgemoth has always been an Elder Dragon, he would have risen before and he would have used as minions. Now, the dwarves and the Mursat and the Seers and all them were around then. The dwarves have recorded history from then. And still nobody really knows what the Sylvari are. They're a new thing. So I'm just wondering if that could mean that they aren't minions of Morgemoth because of that, since we haven't heard about them before.
My thought on that is, so the seed that became the Pale Tree was taken from a cave with a bunch of other seeds and a lot of other things. So, like, it could be that they did start off as minions of Morgemoth, but like the trees maybe take a certain amount of time to grow, or only could grow, so that maybe the last time he was awake, the trees weren't grown yet. They hadn't sprouted or been planted or whatever it took to start that process. So when the last time he was up, he had other plant minions, but there were no Sylvari or anything like humanoid-ish plant people with him.
Yeah, and that's kind of the route I take with it. I was kind of playing devil's advocate there, like John likes to do, but I do believe that the Sylvari are minions of Morgemoth. My personal theory on it is, like you were saying, the Sylvari are formed in human form because of the tree growing over Ronin's body. It's like Deo was saying with Malik, why is he a human? So they're basically just minions that have taken on a different anthropomorphic form, as it were. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about for sure.
I just saw somebody said in chat, it's going a little off, but Glint broke free of Crackle Bar. Calcorator? I'm so
Crocotor.
bad at remembering.
Crocotor. Well, Glint didn't actually break free. She
That's
was
what I
set
was gonna
free
say.
by the
The
magic of the
forbidden,
Forgotten.
the Forgotten set her free. She didn't break free. They found
Yeah.
a spell and broke her free. The Sylvari, as far as I can tell, the reason that they are free from the Mordrimar is that because the seed for the Pale Tree was taken and planted somewhere away from him, and it was left like with the body and the tablet, which they took in to be not commandments, but like tenets of
Their
the way
belief
to
system,
be.
their
Yeah.
structure.
There's also one thing people forget, and it's not really discussed. It's just something that if you understood the way Guild Wars 1 worked, if you remember where the tree actually germinated, to me that has all the markings of being a large conduit for magic. All the wind riders and breeze riders that were there, those were always attracted to high levels of magic. Even now, a lot of them are around places that we know were old magic places in the past. So the I just lost it. But yeah, so they grew up around either a node or something of that, something where magic was actually being influential to them. So you had that, plus you had the teachings of Ventari and Ronan on top of it.
Well, and that's like one theory that I've been playing with for a while now, that we know of a couple bloodstones, and they finally in that book said within game the names of these bloodstones, and they are
What the schools of magic they're dedicated
the schools
to,
of
rather.
magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. That are preservation, aggression, denial, and destruction, which we know of 3 bloodstones. The one that's up in Maguma, which the Mersat were dealing with in Guild Wars 1. In Eye of the North, I think we know there's one in these silver, not
The
silver.
Bloodstone Caves underneath the
Yeah.
Shiver Peaks.
Which is fairly close to where the Pale Tree is going. And my theory with that is you find out that these are dragon minions. Basically, they're planting these seeds on near the bloodstones to absorb that magic, and they basically have to take on that ability. And I think the one that's closest to the Pale Tree is denial, which would probably be very handy. It's they no longer believe that they are part of Mordremoth, and oh, look at these teachings that for us to latch onto and create a whole structure for, which would really make it handy. And it's just interesting that, and they make mention of this in this part of the story, that it's interesting that the 2 people that got attacked, Aaron and Scarlet, they detached themselves from the Pale Tree.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, and it's also interesting that in Scarlet's journal, she starts talking about whispers. Well, with Glint, they said that the dragons don't really communicate like we do. Maybe this was the other Pale Tree when she was over there, starting to whisper commands into her. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's aggression or maybe even destruction, because I mean, she destroyed Lion's Arch. Aaron destroyed the Zephyrite ship. Maybe they were able to become corrupted by this this tree. I don't know if we want to call it Pale Tree or not, but maybe it's sending out a new signal, which I even said, I think last time, I would definitely want to see Traherne over there and Kaith. And they do and we have them both over there. They do say that Traherne is protected by the sword, Calibog, which is a piece of the Pale Tree. So he still has that protection, even though he's firstborn. Supposedly, this is what I'm going with. I don't know if Kaith has something special. I haven't heard any mention of it, and I don't know if they're just like, oh yeah, she gave me this twig, or on the way out. Like, I don't know if they're gonna tie a bit of lore into that, but I definitely think we might see some changes in them.
Yeah, I don't know, it would be interesting to see where they go and how they pull in the rest, because then there's the whole aspect with the Nightmare Court and how that fits in and what they're doing. Because if you look at it one way, this kind of says, oh, hey, the Nightmare Court is right. We are corrupted, or the Silvari are corrupted from what they originally were intended to be or supposed to be, which is an interesting spin to put on all of it. I'm really looking forward to when they pull in all of that stuff.
Oh,
And-
someone in chat just brought up something really important. When you first go to the Dermot Priory, you're overhearing the end of a class, and the teacher mentions that each dragon has dominion over 2 kind of spheres of influence. And he mentioned that one of the ones they stated for Mordremoth is mind, and so that could be one of the reasons why he's
Glint
so.
had that from Kralkatork. And that's why she could read humans' minds, and that's how she learned to speak, or Crichton or whatever you want to call it. But because I remember,
Zlint in chat, you might want to double check which sphere you're talking about. But it was mentioned that the dragons have these 2 spheres of influence that they preside over. So I'd like to see, maybe not if it's mind, because you're right. I think Kralkatork is the mind one, because that's why Snaff had to build his machine. But I'd love to see how those influence play into how the dragons work.
It was also like all of the elder dragon minions had the power to mind control people, because part of the thing that when Destiny's Edge was going to defeat the champions, they got their magical tattoos that they did to help prevent them from taking over their minds. Like the champion of Jormag could do that. It could bend people to their will. I know they specifically said that. I'm pretty sure they mentioned that when they went to fight the other ones as well. So I don't know. It's hard to say exactly how much the spheres like influence what they can do and change and how that works exactly. I mean, I'm sure it's important, but we just don't know exactly how it fits in.
So Zlint from chat actually just double checked that on the wiki. It turns out one of Mordremoth's spheres is mind. So thank you for checking that, running our show for us. But so yeah, I think that might be why Mordremoth's a little more pertinent in getting into the minds of things like Aerin and Scarlet, especially since potentially they could be creatures of his.
And it might be different aspects of the mind, because I know Glint's thing was, and they even say that's how it learned how to speak with and communicate with the humans and whatnot, was
she was telepathic.
entering their head. Yeah. But I mean,
but speaking of Glint and Aerin, we should probably talk about what is
as usual with lore. We're running out of time. That's why you should join GameBreaker Nation and join us in Mumble Chat, because we constantly talk like this anyway. So feel free to sign up and hop in there. But yeah, let's move on to Glint. And it's during this same part of the story, it actually sends us in there, and I'm guessing Robin wants to talk about it. I'm not sure, but I mean, if she wants to give it a go.
Be fair to assume.
Sure, Robin, do you really want to get in on that talk?
Yeah, we get to go to Glint's lair, which is really awesome and amazing and great, because it's like filled with, crystals and it's shiny, and you get separated from Marjorie and Casimir, and you've got to find a way there. And I pretty much loved every moment of being in Glint's lair. Like, I know some people didn't like it, but I loved every minute. Like, I loved the little images that you watched, and like the story that was told through those. I love the bosses in there, figuring out the specific mechanics for those, for each one, and how that worked. I've seen some people complain that they didn't like it because they weren't using their character skills, and it felt bad, like that it wasn't focused on what their character can do. It was just other things. But I really liked the different mechanics, and I really liked how for the last boss it all came together. And can I give away the end of what we see? Because I predicted this, and I'm so excited.
Well, we did warn spoilers. I mean,
yay! So last year when the Zephyrite came in, and they were all about Glint and everything, we had a conversation at one point where like, hey, I wonder if any of the Zephyrite know what happened to any of Glint's kids. And one of the things I said was, I could see that definitely being a thing, you know, see that maybe not all of them, but maybe some of them have some idea of what happened. And at the end of Glint's lair, you see the Master of Peace holding something that looks quite obviously like a dragon egg. And I had my little girl moment of going, "Yee!" So that apparently, I'm assuming at this point, that's what he's had. He's looking for a safe place for it to hatch and raise without getting taken over. My theory is that when it's born, it wouldn't necessarily be a slave to the elder dragon unless it's like in proximity or something. I think it would naturally be free. That's just, you know, way out there speculation on my part. But I think that's what Aaron was after, because I think the other part, Aaron.
Aaron, there's an E in there.
I think that's what he was after, because the other part is I don't think that he would necessarily automatically be a slave to Calc, because I'm not going to say that whole word again. I can't. I think Mordrimar could take him over, and I think that's kind of what he was going for, to have another dragon champion type thing. So
okay, here's what I think about the dragon egg. I think he wants to go hatch the dragon egg because originally when the rising of the first elder dragons, that's how the races that survived that rising of the elder dragons survived it, apart from the Mursak. Glint actually hid them from the elder dragons. Glint was the instrument of their survival. So wouldn't it make sense if they would go after that again? Because Glint's child is the same type of creature. Obviously, it's capable of the same magic. So I think they're going to try to tie that in, that we want that creature to be able to hide us the same way Glint hid the elder races from the elder dragons.
Yep. Well, I think that's one of the things I feel like they're also starting to drive at, that it's either not going to be possible to kill all the elder dragons, or we're going to learn that killing the elder dragons is actually not a good thing and we should not do that. So
that's what I was talking about earlier today was, and this came from, was it the writing of Vec?
It's the Apostate's book, the Map of the All.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the book I wanted to talk about too. We kind of missed it.
Yeah,
I'm glad we went back to it.
It does kind of tie this up in that as people have understood, things exist in a balance within the eternal alchemy. So as we change that balance, the energy involved has to go someplace, and things have to change. And we've already seen where we've increased the magical strength of some of the lieutenants in the world because of this. Help me, guys. Sparkfly fan. Sparkfly. Tequatl. Yeah, we've seen Tequatl get bigger and badder, and we've seen other things happen. We can't as entities in the game can't do anything with magic other than use certain magics that have been blocked off to us. And ultimately, as we kill these dragons, this magic is returned to the world. And what we're doing is we're basically giving them the opportunity to become bigger and badder than their previous setup. So we are in a way setting ourselves up for failure in that we might be making something so big that we can't destroy it, or it'll only in the end be one or two dragons left that finally eat what they need to and go to sleep. And we've made a bigger mess for somebody 10,000 years down the line.
And here's here's another one of my theories regarding this. I think this is actually a fairly popular theory. It says in that book, I don't remember the exact wording, but the Map of the All by the Apostate, that basically killing the elder dragons, disrupting the balance of the natural cycle, not such a good idea. Yeah. So, and it also states in another one of the books, I think it was Vex, that it's just a thesis of his, but I think it's a fairly valid one, that when the elder dragon dies, their power seeps back into materia, all the magic that they consumed.
That's something one of so there's the three Zephyrites who talk about the sun and wind, and they specifically said that when Glint died, naturally the magic from her body went back into the world. Like, it was specifically put out there. So there's no reason to assume it's not the same with the Elder Dragon. Like, I feel like that's pretty much done. It's there. That's the way it is, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, and I like that Deo brought up the Bloodstones earlier, because that's where I think the Bloodstones might factor into the story. Is we need to find some way to deal with this immense magical fallout of an Elder Dragon dying. And so what if we needed to put the Bloodstones back together to absorb this massive magical discharge?
Yeah,
but
actually in the
issue,
wiki, they actually say how to do it. You need the fifth.
just like how to build a Bloodstone 101.
The Bloodstone was split into 4 different parts. One of them is actually called the Keystone. So you have to bring all 4 of the other pieces together, and you got the 5th piece. You just put it together.
Well, the problem with that, though, is like the whole point of the Bloodstone in the first place was to split apart the different types of magic, so nobody was able to wield more than, I think, 1 or maybe 2. But anyways, it was to limit the amount of magic any specific person could get. So, like, if we put that back together, that could have a lot of not good consequences.
Everybody gets to be all professions all at once.
No, I think the real problem is there's 5 pieces, and there's only 4 slots for the Mystic Forge. How are we going to combine it?
Also, the chances of the Mystic Forge giving us back a complete Bloodstone, I don't know.
Yeah, they put it, the Bloodstone by itself does still contain magic. That's the whole reason they put it together, was to contain the magic. Splitting it apart apparently doesn't really affect that containment. The magic is still trapped in there. That's why we can't beat all the professions at once.
I'm pretty sure it specifically is that the splitting of apart is what split the different magics and cut them off together. Like, that's why we can only be 2 schools of magic. You're right. Yes.
Well, I definitely think the interesting thing is, even after all this is said and done, if you talk with Ogden, he even says, like, even if you guys grasp this, it's such a small piece of what all this is.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was telling you when we were talking about this earlier. When we went into Omad's machine, what you started out with was a huge, if you take it as a huge machine, you saw all these different pieces and parts and lights and all this stuff. And we eventually focused in on one thing, but there's a myriad other related items in this, the same idea of 6 spheres, solid, running around things. I mean, if you look at was it Realm of Torment, that was set up in the same thing. It was six orbs around the center. All this is just reflections of the same basic building blocks, and it's it can be infinitely bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like they're trying to say is it's like a small snapshot of what it is. And I mean, speaking of snapshots, they ArenaNet, with their points of interest, and also I believe it was on Twitter, teased 2 images, and I think the first one we're going to be showing is the image they showed on points of interest, and that shaman actually rotated it so you can actually see it like as if you were playing it, and supposedly this is going to be for sideways. Yeah, they had it like landscape where it was really kind of jarring to look. But it's definitely interesting. I mean, it seems like there's like a stalk or something going up in the background. But I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be another tree or if it's just another, clear vine or something.
I think it's going to be another big bad Mordrim we have to kill, personally.
Yeah, I think we're on the path to kill something there. It just looks like that's a regular group of players going down a path. And there's no path that looks like that's going to be good at the end.
No. It's a dark place, my friend.
Could be the Emerald City at the end. Woo.
Yeah, it could be. Boy. We're off to see the wizard.
And I think the next one was actually on their Twitter during the week. It was actually before that image, which is definitely interesting. It shows what looks like Ritlock, and we all assume it's Ritlock because of the quote. And it says, "My journey has only just begun," and has an interesting blindfold, which a lot of
weird
people
symbol
are
on it.
making a comparison of Cormier.
Yeah, well, it also looks an awful lot like Ritlock, just the character design
Yeah.
itself. So
Yeah, I'm pretty
things
sure
have
it's Ritlock.
obviously happened to him, but
Hey, I don't see a name. I'm not taking any chances. They could say they cloned him. I don't
True.
know.
It's true. Yeah, I don't like. I can't even begin to speculate on. There's so many
Nope.
theories I have, but none of them are solid. So
Okay,
I'm just excited. That's all I'll say about it. Is I'm excited about
yeah,
it.
it's really an exciting picture because the only things we have that are related to blindfolds is either Magnus with his eye patch or Cormier. Well, Cormier doesn't make any
Ritualist from
sense for a
Guild Wars
chart
1.
because what's that?
Or Ritualist from Guild Wars 1. But we'll leave
Well,
that.
I was going to say the chart.
So you're saying they convert Dervish and Ritualist. All right,
Yeah, I mean, makes as much sense because there's no chart that's going to take on any idea of a god as far as worshiping them.
I mean, it also depends on what might have happened to him when he went through wherever he went. Like, there might be no char that willingly is like, oh yeah, gods, but you can never predict what things might happen that might, change that. I can definitely foresee a few possibilities there. So I wouldn't.
What would those be, Robin?
Well, how are we doing on time? Because somebody was mentioning that.
We're slowly trying to wrap up. So, but I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, and I urge people, join GameBreaker Nation, hop on Mundle.
Mundle.
Ah.
Hop on Mundle, guys. It's great.
Make sure you find Mumble, not Mundle. I don't look. I don't know what it could be, but don't.
I'm sure
I
that's a
would
naughty
look
word
it
of some
up.
sort.
But yeah, hop on I almost did it again. Mumble. Hop on the thing that we use. Well, wait, no, that's the internet. Anyway, moving on quickly. I mean, what do you guys think overall did you guys like the patch? I mean, as a whole?
Best
Yes.
patch.
Oh yeah, as a whole, this patch is
for the game
awesome.
so far.
This patch shows me where I think they're going to go with the living story as far as content goes. I can see if they do this level of content on a regular basis, 6 months to a year, you would have content equivalent to anything that you would put in a saleable box.
Yeah, and it's only going to get better too as they get more used to putting it out.
Yeah, I think they're definitely every patch with it, they're getting better. They're tightening up their storytelling. They're not giving away too much, but they're still making things far more cohesive and interesting and linking up. So yeah, I think they're doing better
And keep
with it.
putting out books every show. Every part of the season, they should put out new books.
Like
New
in-game
lore books. They need to keep. No, lore books.
Okay.
In the game.
Books
Yeah,
every
keep the
patch
lore
arena.
growing.
We love it.
I was thinking like a full
Lore
length
every patch.
novel every time.
Yeah, Resourceby, get on that novel writing. We want more.
Yeah, seriously,
Every
why
patch,
are you
new
not
novel.
writing things?
I'm sure she's busy. Leave her alone. But I would definitely like to thank all the guests for coming out today. And I would also like to
Did I
thank.
notice you get a little red at Reese Osby's name, Jonathan?
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
Lovely lady, enjoy her work. Whew. Now I'm all flustered. No, but I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and watching the show. I mean, we're basically doing it for you guys, and we have a lot of fun talking about it. I mean, we're gonna probably continue right after this in Mumble. So once again, sign up there. But where can they find you, Aaron?
I'm on WordPress, aformermonk.wordpress.com. I write Guild Wars 2 stories there. And you can find me at aformermonk on Twitter.
Where can they find you, Roy?
You find me at GBN a lot on the Mumble, and Schadenfreude Productions on YouTube. And if you want to Twitter me, at Royby62.
And Robin, where can they find you?
I write for GameBreaker, so you can find me there. I have a blog called MMORly.com. I write random things about all kinds of MMOs there. And also on Twitter at Arly82. Yay.
And you can find me at basically Twitter, Twitch, whatever, simply _Deo. You can probably see it right down there, right, up, nope, up there. Okay. But honestly, you can find everybody here at the Guild Wars 2 Guild at GameBreakerNation.com. And you're probably thinking, what if I fall out of favor with Guild Wars, or taking a little break? That's fine. We also have Final Fantasy XIV, Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft, League of Legends, a Minecraft community, and we just keep growing with members like you. So come on out, sign on up, and we'll see you in the game. And also, if you have questions, send them in to us at #GBNLive. See, look, Ixter has a sad face. Nobody tweeted questions.
And if you tweet them during the week, we will answer them on the next show.
Yes.
So that might not happen. I don't know.
We will try our best.
Yeah. I kind of made that up without clearing it with Ixter.
But yeah, if you head on over to GameBreakerNation.com,
Try though.
you can find multiple guilds and multiple games. Keep growing, clans. We go where gamers go. So head on over, and we'll see you in the game. So thanks for coming out, everyone.
See you later, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Army got cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, put my jacket